Well, welcome back to Stab the Dragon Productions for episode number 159, I think, for a St. Patrick's Day special. Well, St. Patrick's Day was yesterday, March 17th, 2024, and today is Monday, but I'm a day late and $1 short, as usual. Tonight we're going to do a comparison of two Irish whiskeys, Jameson Stout Edition versus the Fighting 69th Irish whiskey. I don't drink a lot of Irish whiskey. Frankly, it just doesn't interest me that much. I've focused on Texas whiskeys now for the last year and a half or so. I tend to like ryes and bourbons, some Scotch, even Canadian. But Irish whiskey, for whatever reason, has just not done much for me. But here are two of my favorites. I mean, I really like both of these whiskeys tonight. So I'm asking the question, which one do I like the best? Now, previously, I have done some Irish comparisons. I did Bushmills Original versus Red Bush and then Black Bush. Original won that competition. I say won. Bushmills, all three of them, failed to impress me. I really did not like any of them. So I'll never buy Bushmills again. I'm not going to try to up the ante to a 12-year or anything like that. I just, Bushmills failed to impress after 3 tries. Jameson Original also kind of failed to impress me. I went through 2 bottles of Jameson Original several years back, and really it came across as weak, as tinny. I kept hearing, well, you get these this shortbread cookie note. Never did. In fact, I think I did a comparison between Proper 12 and Jameson, and Proper 12 won. A lot of people don't like Proper 12, but I tend to prefer it to Jameson Original. But here, the Jameson Stout Edition, I really do like. So there you go. That one up the ante enough for me, and I really do enjoy it. So, quite simply, what I'm looking at is which of these two whiskeys, if I was drinking both of them for 5 nights straight, which one would I prefer 3 out of 5 times? There you go. That's, which one would I choose 3 out of 5 times? Now, Jameson was started in Ireland in 1780 by John Jameson, and it is the best-selling brand of Irish whiskey in the world. Have to give it credit. It's now based from the new Middleton Distillery in Cork, Ireland. In the U.S., Jameson is usually in the top 10 somewhere. If you look at the various surveys for several years of what are the top 10 whiskeys in America, Jameson will usually make it. But it depends on who does the list and how they do it. I mean, those lists are always fun, but they're also always different from each other. So it's hard to go, but hard to figure out exactly which ones are the top. Sometimes it used to be Jack Daniels all the time, and then some lists had Crown Royal at the top, and then some had Bullet at the top. Imagine that. So again, it just depends on who does the list and how they do it. But Jameson is a favorite Irish whiskey in America, hands down. Not even a close competitor. Nowhere close. So this whiskey is triple distilled, blended, finished in stout beer barrels. The Caskmate Stout Edition began in 2013 when Jameson used some beer barrels from Cork-based microbrewery Franciscan Wells. And then they followed in 2017 with the IPA finished edition, which I've not had, and I will have at some point. This whiskey is 80 proof, right? 750 milliliter bottle. And my initial take on this whiskey is it was so much better than the regular Jameson. The regular Jameson I considered bland and metallic. I bought this whiskey, I think, in 2021, maybe 2022. So I've got way too many open bottles, and this one is getting close to the end, so I really do need to finish this before it goes bad. But see, I like stout beers. I mean, stout beers are one of my favorites. And so that's why I bought this. I thought, I didn't really care for the original Jameson, but maybe because this is aged as stout beer barrels, I'll like it. And sure enough, that worked. Now, what about the Fighting 69th Irish whiskey? It's kind of a weird title. This is a blended Irish whiskey, and they were contracted to produce this for the 69th Regiment Association. Now, the 69th Regiment, there you go, the Irish Brigade in the Civil War, the 69th New York, and other Irish regiments in the Army of the Potomac. It was actually started in 1849, this regiment, and the goal was to go back to Ireland and fight the British. So that, there's so many Irish had immigrated to America that outside of, they're in New York, they got together and said, hey, let's go back to the home country and fight the Brits. But when the American Civil War began, the regiment, and see, back then they had private regiments. This was a thing back then, where hey, if you wanted to raise up a regiment of military, you could do that. Those were the days. Sounds like a good plan for today, especially here in Texas. But they joined up with the Civil War, and they fought in the First Battle of Bull Run. They fought in the 7 Days Campaign. They fought at Antietam, Chancellorsville, Fredericksburg, Gettysburg. It's been said, and this is on their website, I think it's even here on the bottle, that General Lee was the one who named the 69th the Fighting 69th. And this has got all kinds of doodads on the bottle, by the way. I mean, it would take me a while just to read this, but it's also 80 proof, 750 milliliter bottle. I don't know exactly where this comes from. I think maybe Middleton, but I don't know the distillery. It's imported by Indigo Wine and Spirits from Florida, but I'm not sure on the distillery here. And that may be a signed NDA or something like that. But the Fighting 69th went on. They stayed in the Army in World War I. They served in the battles at Champagne, at Ain Marne. In World War II, they were in the Battle of Okinawa. The unit is still in the New York National Guard to this day and has served in Iraq and Afghanistan repeatedly in the past 20 years. Their motto is, gentle when stroked, fierce when provoked. And I would say also $1 from every bottle goes to support the 69th Infantry Regiment Historical Trust. Now, you can't buy this in stores, I don't think. I've never seen it in a store. I had to special order this through the 69th Regiment website. And the price was reasonable, $32.99. But by the time you add tax and shipping, it's another 20 bucks or so, over $20. It was close to 60, right? When I bought this about 4 years ago. So I don't think I really don't think it's carried in any liquor stores, and I have researched it some more, and they're going to a single malt, an Irish single malt for the Fighting 69th whiskey. So I don't even know if you can get this edition anymore. The website that I went to had the new edition out, so this may be now a dead whiskey. One website that or one video that I saw said that gave the mash as barley, malted barley, and corn. But when you look on the bottle, when you look at the official website, it just says barley and malted barley. So I don't know. It's a blended whiskey, so I would think there's other grains in there. Uh, it's aged in port casks and sherry butts. And this whiskey is certainly in my military whiskey collection, which I've got, I don't know, about 15 different bottles of military whiskeys. And so I love collecting those kinds of things. And so when this is done, I will have to replace it, I guess, with a new one. So let's go into this contest now, and let's look at evaluating these whiskeys on everything I can think of. So first of all, the history. I'll give the edge here to the Fighting 69th due to the history that the whiskey is attached to, while admittedly the Jameson has the longer history as a whiskey going back to the late 1700s. And so that's a tough call. It could go either way, but to me, the military attachment is certainly strong. So clearly, I value certain things about history more than others, but this was a close call. So advantage to Fighting 69th. Marketing. Well, here Jameson is the worldwide product, obviously. So they're the beast. And 69th is marketed to a very narrow clientele. You can't buy this in liquor stores, so advantage Jameson. But when we start looking at evaluating the bottle and the label, this is a hard one because I am a sucker for bottles, okay? And I love green whiskey bottles. Now I get that, the purpose of a green bottle is to obscure how young looking, pale the whiskey looks like, or maybe it's to protect the whiskey from sunlight. But I just love a green bottle. There you go. The label here on Jameson bottles is always classy. They've got the crest because they were recognized by the royalty of England for providing whiskey. It's got established in 1780. So, there's a lot to speak of for that bottle. Fighting 69th, another classic bottle, a classy label. And again, because I like the military connection here, I'm just going to have to lean heavy here on the Fighting 69th. So they win the bottle and the label. But now let's look at the appearance. I poured these two glasses and mixed them up as best I could. But when I poured them, and here I wish I had my faithful assistant, when I poured them, I realized the Jameson was darker than the Fighting 69th. Being aged in stout beer casks, I can see that. So this one is the darker. So I'm going to say that that's the Jameson. When I drink it, there are numbers on the bottom, and the Fighting 69th is number 1. Jameson is number 2. So even though I kind of think, visually I can figure that out. And so visually, I tend to go for the darker whiskeys. Just, it's an aesthetic thing. So Jameson wins that. So now let's go with the nosing. So I'll start with the Fighting 69th. And that's a pleasant nose. A little bit of sweetness and maltiness. My nose is inadequate. I'm frankly surprised I could smell that. Now I'll go to the Jameson, or what I think is the Jameson. Not as much of a nose. That surprises me. I would have thought I'd pick up on that Stout. So here I'm thinking Fighting 69th wins the nose. So now let's move on to the taste. Again, if this is Fighting 69th, it should have a number 1 on the bottom. And that's good. You know, there's no age statement on here, which means, you know, but by law, I think it's like Scotch. I think if it's going to be an Irish whiskey, it's going to be 3 years old if it doesn't have another age statement at all. So, but it doesn't taste young. It's got a little bit of a kick to it. Peppery notes. The obvious sweetness like a traditional Irish, but the peppery notes there are a bonus. So that's sweet honey, a little bit of maltiness, a little bit of peppery notes. That's quite good. So let me rinse my mouth out here. Now, if this is Jameson, it should have a number 2. And I do pick up on the little bit of the beer taste on there, especially towards the finish. Does not have the peppery notes that the Fighting 69th had. A little bit better mouthfeel. But I kind of think both of them have a decent finish. This will be difficult because I like the stout beer note there. It's very faint. But I like the peppery note on the Fighting 69th. This is really very smooth. Very pleasant. On the finish, you get that stout. Wow, this is going to be a hard one to judge. Yeah, the mouthfeel on the Jameson is better, or at least in this glass that I'm assuming is Jameson. This will be very difficult. Taste, I'm going to say, is a tie, but mouthfeel, Jameson for sure. Price and availability, Jameson wins it. So history goes to the Fighting 69th, but marketing goes to Jameson. Bottle and label goes to the Fighting 69th, but appearance goes to Jameson. Nose to the 69th. Taste is a tie. Mouthfeel, Jameson. Price and availability, Jameson for sure. Okay, we have a winner. Let's make sure I know what I'm talking about here. This is a number 2. This is the Jameson. Jameson Stout Edition wins. That's but again, the taste was a tie. I mean, and it's not that they're similar. They're very different. You get the peppery notes on the one, and you get the stout notes on the other. But the mouthfeel on the Jameson is clearly better. So, yeah, Jameson Stout Edition for the win. But both of these I highly recommend. I mean, go to the website for the Fighting 69th, check them out, order a bottle online, and it's worth it. I mean, it's good. Jameson, I mean, you can find this just about anywhere. The price for Jameson, I don't think I covered that, but here in Fort Worth, you can get this at all the major liquor stores. Specs had it for $28.39, Total Wine $28.99, Goody Goody $28.99. So, there you go, under 30, and that's cheaper than ordering the Fighting 69th. So if you're looking at the budget and value, Jameson clearly wins that. Well, all right, that does it for Stab the Dragon on Monday, March 18th, 2024, celebrating St. Patrick's Day. Out here.